Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina Kofer, and on behalf of Choice and ACRL, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, How Libraries Are Leveraging Digital Content to Engage Students with Alternate Formats, which is sponsored by OverDrive Academic. Today's discussion is one in a series of sponsored webinars from Choice and ACRL that addresses new ideas and developments of interest to the academic library community. Before we get started, I'd like to point out just a few features of the webinar software. So all the attendees who join the presentation are automatically muted and your cameras are off, so don't worry about generating any noise or feedback. We've got that taken care of for you. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. We're using the Q&A feature today. Please use it to ask questions of our presenters. We do expect many questions, but we'll answer all questions at the end of the presentation, so please do type them into the Q&A box as they occur to you. Also note that there is closed captioning available for today's session. To toggle the automated captions on or off, please use the CC button on the bottom right corner of your screen. Last, please note that we are recording today's program, and everyone who registered will receive a follow-up email with a link to the archive version. And with that, we're ready to get started, so I'll pass it over to Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sabrina. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. Again, this is Jeff Kola with OverDrive. Very excited to be here and so thankful to ACRL Choice to bring us all together today to discuss the great things that academic libraries are doing. So next slide, please, Bill. So our agenda today will be a brief introduction to who we are, and I'll tell you a little bit about OverDrive. Next, Kathleen will take over from University of Michigan, who will discuss her experiences as an academic librarian. After Kathleen, I'll take back over discussing the variety of digital content that we have available with OverDrive. And finally, Jason from Kanopy will discuss how academic libraries can add streaming video to the classroom and share stats from a recent survey. And like Sabrina said, we will have time for questions at the end. So next slide, please. So again, this is us and our official job titles. Again, Kathleen Folger from University of Michigan, who is the Electronic Resources Officer there. Again, my name is Jeff Kola, Account Manager here for OverDrive Academic. And then Jason Tyrell, General Manager of Kanopy. So thank you so much for having us. And then next slide, please. And then just a little bit about OverDrive. Of course, many of you might be familiar with OverDrive from your public library, but we are very proud to host digital reading platforms for a wide range of institutions in higher education, from community colleges to seminaries to art schools and everything in between. And we can do that because of our catalog of millions of titles in over 100 languages and over 30,000 publishers, all wrapped up in our award-winning app called Libby. Historically, we are known for our ebooks, which continue to shine. However, I'm excited to share some of the different formats that we have to offer our academic partners that can really help fill gaps or round out your digital offerings. So really excited to share those things. And with that, I'm happy to pass it over to our great partner in University of Michigan. They've done a great job of utilizing OverDrive and other digital resources to meet the needs of their students, especially in COVID times, which of course has seemingly become our new normal. So Kathleen, please feel free to take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So as Jeff said, I'm Kathleen Folger. I'm Electronic Resources Officer at the University of Michigan. My plan today is to talk about our experience with alternate formats, specifically audiobooks, comics, and graphic novels. I was going to talk a little bit about our experience with streaming video, but I took a sneak peek at Jason's slides and realized what he had found from the survey matched exactly my thoughts about streaming video. So I'm not going to steal his thunder and tell you what it is, but I will say that when Jason presents his survey results, know that he has 100% my backing because I agree with what he has found. So The University of Michigan. First, let me talk about today's agenda. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the University of Michigan, talk about some use cases for audiobooks, and then tell you a little bit about our experience with audiobooks and specifically with OverDrive. Talk a little bit about comics and graphic novels and their increasing use in the classroom, and then talk about my wish list for alternate formats. So if you were to ask anyone, what's the first word you think of when you think of the University of Michigan? Most people would actually say football, but if you could get them to focus on the academic side of the university, they would probably say research. We are well known for our research. For the 11th year in a row, we are the #1 public research university in the US in research volume. We have hundreds of degree programs. More than 100 of our graduate programs are ranked in the top 10. So we are very heavily research oriented and are well known for that. What's not so well known is that we also have a very strong commitment to undergraduate students. We kind of have to because we have so many of them, more than 40,000 undergraduate students. And so the approach of the university for undergraduate students is really a whole person approach. It's not just about their academic learning, but it's about their physical and mental and social and emotional development. There are a wide range of activities, resources, and services we provide to support undergraduate students in their growth. And that includes, we have a dedicated undergraduate library. This is the Shapiro Undergraduate Library building, and the collection there supports undergraduate students in the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, Schools of Education, and Information. And in addition to providing the material that supports students in their course requirements, we also provide material that supports extracurricular interests, including a browsing collection with popular fiction, nonfiction, graphic novels, and travel guides. And I talk about the undergraduate library and specifically their browsing collection because as we first started thinking about audiobooks, that was really the audience we had in mind. We have long had this browsing collection, which was mainly print, and you can see in this image, which is pre-pandemic, we had shelves set aside for a browsing collection. We have comfortable seats nearby. So it was mainly a print collection, but we did supplement it with various formats of audiobooks depending on the era. We started out with books on tape, and then as tapes went away and CDs became popular, we moved to the books on CD. And then we moved over to the playaways, which were these kind of standalone devices that had audiobooks preloaded on them. So we've always had an interest in audiobook, but what we've discovered is our students are less interested in checking out a tangible format. They want to be able to listen to audiobooks on their devices. So we really started looking around at options for providing online access to audiobooks. As we talked with colleagues in the library, one of the things we discovered is we actually had another use case for audiobooks, and that's for students with print disabilities. The obvious audience that might come to mind is users with no or low vision. And we had thought about those users, but we have a small number of students who fit in that category. And we thought, well, we have a lot of ebooks and they have the screen readers, so they should be able to get access to content they need. And if there is something that's only available in print, we actually do have an office that digitizes material for students who are registered who have disabilities. So we kind of thought we were serving those students pretty well. But then we found out the library has hired an accessibility specialist. And one of the things she mentioned to us is actually there are delays when the office on campus wants to scan material for the students, especially at the start of the semester. There can be so many students who need material scanned. It can take weeks for them to get it sometimes. And she reminded us that in addition to no and low vision users, we also have other users who have challenges using print books or even ebooks. So for instance, students with dyslexia and other learning disabilities can have trouble reading, where if they can hear the book, they can actually understand better. Students with ADHD, we had a student tell us that they cannot read the ebooks because they get so distracted using their computer, and that they really preferred audiobooks. It really helped their learning. So we went in thinking that we were just looking for fun, browsing collection material, and then realized that there's actually a use case for academic content for users with print disabilities. But then in further conversations with colleagues in the library who work directly with students, we also found out audiobooks were preferred by students without disabilities. They're busy, some of them work jobs, some of them commute. So what some students were telling us, I have been using your ebooks, but I turn on the text to speech and listen to my textbooks in the car when I'm commuting to campus, or when I'm on the elliptical in the recreation building. So we recognize that there's actually a demand for academic content and audio version. And so our search for audiobooks expanded beyond just browsing material, beyond popular fiction and nonfiction. And we started really looking for audiobook content that is academic in nature. And when we meet with publishers, we tell them that, like, what are you doing with audiobooks? Because our students really want that. So our experience with audiobooks has been that not all vendors are able to work with academic libraries, especially with our authentication system. So we tried with a couple of different vendors who did not use proxy server. They didn't use shibboleth, which are the most commonly used authentication methods in academic libraries. So we had the hardest time getting products to work with our authentication system. In addition, so we do have a vendor that we get audiobooks from besides OverDrive, but a lot of students who use the platform report confusion and difficulty using the product. There are some hoops you have to jump through that they find hard to manage. What we have found, however, students and faculty are familiar with OverDrive, and they really like the Libby app. When we introduced OverDrive to campus, we got many comments. Could you get more books on Libby? This is great, but I want more. And one of the things we have found is some titles that aren't available from our usual academic vendors, our ebook vendors, they are available from OverDrive. So it's made a big difference in our ability to provide access to both popular and academic content in a format that our users really like. Specifically, just to give you an idea of what our experience has been like using OverDrive audiobooks. So in the past, we've had OverDrive about a year and a half. And in that 18 months, 84% of all the audiobooks we've purchased have circulated at least once. And the average for a audiobook is 3 circulations over the past 18 months. So we are selecting both things that patrons specifically request and things that we think they might be interested in. So we're pretty pleased with the 84% circulation rate. I think that's excellent. And then the average of 3 times is also really good. We're very pleased with the use we're seeing. And one of the things that I really like about OverDrive is they have a lot of different models you can choose from. And one of the models is is something called the cost per circulation model. And what happens with that is you can identify a title that you want to use this cost per circulation model. You only get charged if the patron actually checks out the title. And we can set limits on how much we're willing to spend on the CPC titles so that we don't overspend our budget. And one of the things we found, this was a really cost-effective way to provide unlimited simultaneous access for small classes. So we had a class of 25 students who were And the instructor actually specifically requested an audiobook. She wanted them to have an audiobook version. So we were able to use the CPC model so all of the students could check out the same title at the same time and listen to it. And it was a relatively inexpensive way of doing that. Switching a little bit to a new topic, I also want to talk about comics and graphic novels in the classroom, because we are seeing increasing numbers of classes in multiple disciplines who are using comics or graphic novels. I've listed a few titles that we've seen used in the past year. So there was Ms. Marvel #1, which is a comic book about the first Muslim Ms. Marvel. That was used in a history class. John Lewis's March has been used in multiple classes. Persepolis is another one that's been used in it. There are 2 courses that used it, one in Middle East Studies and another in Comparative Literature. So we are seeing classes that trying to address topics find that a comic book or graphic novel is a way to introduce that topic in a way that's engaging for students. We're also finding that some courses are now being created around the idea of studying the comics themselves. So we have a course called Conflict in Comics, Reframing the Middle East. And they look at comic books both as, how they portray the Middle East. So the comics themselves have become an object of study. So I was presented with a title about, I can't remember what it is, something about leveraging alternate formats for student engagement. And I didn't like the word alternate, and I could not come up with a better word. And I started thinking about, well, what is it about alternate? What does alternate mean to me? And I think what it means to me is formats that just are not very well integrated in our standard workflows in the library. And so what happens with these kind of alternate formats is often like 1 or 2 people end up being like the experts in that format. And so rather than having our subject experts make decisions about what format makes the most sense given the subject area, you have these other people who are the experts because they did the initial conversation with OverDrive, and so now they're the OverDrive experts, and they're expected to order everything. And what we want instead is for audiobooks, streaming video, all of those things to be integrated into our usual workflows. So it's the subject expert making the decisions. So what that looks like is that the ability to order over an audiobook or ebook would be integrated in our usual selection tool. So we use Oasis, many libraries use Gobi, but if you could see the availability on different platforms of these alternate formats, then it would be easier for the subject expert to make a decision. We want the MARC records readily available from our usual sources. So we use Alma, and Alma has a knowledge base, so we'd love for the OverDrive records to be there rather than having to get them from OverDrive and load them into Alma. EDI invoicing, so it's all handled electronically. We'd love for the materials to be available in a reserves-like system. So like, for instance, we could check out an ebook or a graphic novel for a few hours rather than for days or weeks. And along with that, we'd like the options and control to set the lending period lengths. And finally, one of the things we really want to move away from this model where we only have access to content for a limited amount of time. We really want to have perpetual access rights for all the titles we buy, no more metered access or limited licenses. We would like to purchase and then be done with a purchase. So that's my wish list. And so I know I'm going to pass things over to Jeff now, and we'll take questions at the end of the presentations.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathleen. It was excellent to hear from your perspective. I love the holistic approach that U of M takes, and love all the things that you guys are implementing and your ideas for the future as well. So definitely really appreciate that. So for my part here, coming from OverDrive is I want to share what we have to offer on OverDrive that you may not have realized. Some of these offerings are new to us just over the last year or so. So I'm really happy to discuss these. We really feel there's something for everyone, and it can really help schools empower their students with these different avenues of helping them think critically, learn new skills, and so on. All of which what I'm about to talk about come in an unlimited use type model. I'll touch on those towards the end, but these really provide you a great value for your money as you are exploring some of these different avenues, different streaming services, if you will. So the first one I want to talk about is our magazine. So our magazine package is powered by Zinio. And our magazine package is probably the most utilized thus far in the offerings that I'm about to talk about. And that's definitely for good reason. The package, it gives a huge variety of topics. You can see some of the big name titles in there, The Economist, New Scientist, National Geographic, so on and so forth. I'll be discussing pricing in a couple slides, but the package as a whole is over 3,000 titles and is in an unlimited simultaneous use model, which again is excellent value. So again, with over 3,000 titles, it really covers just about anything you need or want to provide your users. Next is our comics. And again, I'm really happy that Kathleen was able to bring up comics and graphic novels because they really are starting to boom. The great thing about comics that we offer through OverDrive is you can purchase individual titles as well as our full package. Very similar to the magazine package that I just discussed. Again, an amazing value, same thing, over 3,000 titles in unlimited simultaneous use. Same thing, you can see some of the big names offered in those comics. IDW Publishing, Dynamite Entertainment, Image Comics, Marvel, and Disney even. So again, really happy to see these being offered for college students. Again, Kathleen mentioned that we're starting to see that in course supplementation of their actual course, and then just giving users more options when it comes to leisure reading. And of course, that kind of goes the same for our magazine collection as well. So just to give you an idea of pricing for these, again, I just wanted to show you the value since it is a simultaneous use. You select the package for 1 year, and the pricing is tiered based on the size of your institution. So our tier 1 is $2,000 for the full year of simultaneous use for magazines. And I bring that up because 75% of OverDrive schools currently are tier 1, and goes up to tier 4. 90% of our schools right now are tier 4 or under. So again, on the screen, you can see some of the prices on there, but again, very reasonable, especially if you are in those lower tiers. So again, extremely good value for the amount of titles that you can get, really something for everyone, and very specific courses. We even serve specific art schools or architecture schools that use those comics for their specific courses. So really happy to have those. Next, I want to talk about Universal Class. Universal Class is probably the next most utilized service that we offer. Universal Class is a video streaming service that provides online continuing education courses. Some of those courses are more traditional, educational, and relate to degree-seeking programs, but some are more individual interest-based, like crafts, hobbies, self-help, different things like that. And you can see the topics here on this next slide. As you can see, over 500 continuing education courses through Universal Class, and again, kind of gives you an overview here of all the different things that you can take a look at. And why is Universal Class great for academic libraries? One of the big reasons I love it is because it's self-paced, which means you'll meet the learner where they're at, whether they're using it as a course supplement or if there's just something they look to approach a little more casually. I think the big highlight is that the format and topics promote the idea of becoming lifelong learners, which I think a lot of academic institutions are striving for that idea. The next one I want to discuss is IndieFlix. IndieFlix is another resource that I believe is a great place in academic libraries. It gives users access to films that they may not otherwise be commonly available. And it's really neat because they usually address common individual and societal issues. As you can see here in this quote, there's two things that I really like that they mention here. And that's how these films are both thought-provoking and how they stem from all walks of life. So again, two main things that I think academic institutions are definitely looking for their students. Again, some of the current genres and topics that are offered currently on IndieFlix. And this last slide, I just love this quote that they have in kind of their branding, but they provide movies that spark conversations that can change the world. Again, I think that's something that colleges are hoping to provide their students, this avenue to learn and spark conversation amongst each other. And with this, something like this and all the things that I'm talking about, whether that's on campus or off, they're giving their students the opportunity to spark those conversations, learn about different things, and dig into things that they might not have the opportunity to otherwise. Couple more here. Artistworks is another one that we offer. This would be for all the musicians on campus or off. This might be something that, it's a great service because it's, again, meant to meet students where they are. If they're a beginner that want to pick up a new hobby, or they want to continue on with their skills from high school. Again, it can be a big jump for high school students coming from doing private lessons and different things like that to coming to college, and maybe they're not part of it throughout their college courses, but they want to keep along. This is a great way to provide for them, or it can align with their college courses and music in school as well. Great thing with Artistworks is it provides hours of high quality video instruction, which is all guided. Again, you can see on the slide talking about coming from Grammy Award winning professionals, along with play along tracks and downloadable materials like tablature and sheet music, all coming from the same service. So really, really neat for all the musicians there. Along those same lines of music, we also offer Kello Concerts. Kello Concerts is a platform where users can stream thousands of concerts and music documentaries, and really covers all the genres that you can see here in the next slide. So a little something for everyone. This is something that I look at personally. I think it's really neat to have on in the background during a workout, or just doing chores around the house as well. And for academic libraries, what I love about Kello is it's a great way to kind of round off your offering. So an easy example that's popular right now is you might have David Grohl's new book, The Storyteller, in your collection, and maybe users want to take a look at Kello and catch some of the Foo Fighters concerts in action after reading the title or doing more research on that. So again, reading about certain artists or maybe learning the music, this is a great way to actually provide a way to actually see those artists perform. And the last one I want to talk about is Craftsy. Craftsy is just a great way to provide for all of the creative people and creative makers on campus. Again, meeting them where they might be. Maybe it's someone who's very passionate about a certain hobby and they're looking for more advanced techniques, or maybe just someone who's interested in becoming a little more creative or learning a new hobby. And as you can see here, it covers a wide range of activities, quilting, sewing, to cake decorating and painting, so on and so forth. And it's all beautifully done with instructional video classes, again, along with some downloadable materials. So to kind of round out everything, I want to show you an example. So all of the things that I talked about today is under our databases and streaming media portion of Marketplace if you are a current member of OverDrive. So this is an example of the pricing. So unlimited simultaneous use options. So the ones I talked about, Artistworks, Universal Class, and along with some of the other ones. These are examples, like I mentioned, a tier one school. And so again, just want to show you very reasonable, $1,000 for unlimited access for the year for Universal Class, maybe something that you'd be able to add along without having to stretch your dollar too much. And along with the simultaneous use models, these three here, Craftsy, IndieFlix, and Kello Concerts, are also offered in a cost per circ option. I know Kathleen mentioned cost per circ when she was talking about audiobooks earlier, but again, a really good way. It's still unlimited because it gives you unlimited access for 7 days, the user's access for 7 days. And again, the tier one pricing is only $2.99 per user. And like Kathleen was mentioning, you can set budgets, so there's nothing unexpected happening, spending too much money, so you can always do that. So again, all of this is offered in Marketplace if you are a current user. If you are not, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information will be on the page at the end of the presentation. And I just thank you so much for hearing some of the different things that we have to offer. I'm really excited about those things and seeing how it fits into your library and how you can continue to meet the needs of your students. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass it to Jason, who's going to stay right along the same line. So excited to hear what you have to say, Jason. Thank you.
There we go. Sorry about that. I realized I took control of the screen before I unmuted myself. We'll start over again. So hi, everyone. If you're joining late, I'm Jason Terrell. I'm the general manager of Kanopy. Here to talk to you a little bit about how Kanopy can fulfill some of the needs on campus with alternate formats. So if you're not aware of Kanopy, the reason that we exist, right, is to build expansive catalogs of really meaningful films on campus, specifically for curricular use. So there's no question that the demand for streaming video is on the rise. We did not make up these percentages. We talk to our customers all the time. We do big yearly surveys, and I'll be digging into that a little bit later. But when we polled our customers, 91% of faculty on campus said that including streaming video and other digital media improves student outcomes. And that's really somewhere that we see a meaningful impact from video. Obviously, nothing replaces a book experience, but especially now when our students on campus are digital natives, the outcome that you can see from just utilizing even one single film title and course curriculum is really meaningful. 75% of students have reported that lectures enhanced with streaming video are more engaging. So we know that video is the dominant medium of our era, and that has proved itself out with the engagement of students on campus. When we polled our academic librarians, 68% reported that they see increased student engagements from streaming video into course assignments. So this is all good news, and it obviously underlines the fact that we need to find a sustainable way to get video on campus. We've built a pretty amazing collection. I've only been with Kanopy myself for about 2 years. The company goes back over a decade, and we've built a highly curated catalog of more than 30,000 titles across narrative features, both American cinema and world cinema, incredible documentaries, short films, animated films. Our catalog goes all the way back to the earliest days of silent film and some of the earliest examples of films ever created, all the way up to content that's coming out this year. For example, we have documentaries from HBO that are live on our platform only 7 days after they've gone live on HBO. So we're really excited about not just the breadth, but the depth of the catalog. And we've really tried to approach it almost looking at it as a document of film history. So that's pretty rare from a streaming service to express things that way. But when we look at our curational strategy, we really think about, if 200 years from now, someone came across, they dug up a time capsule, right? And it was the experience of film history. What was this art form, right? From the 20th and 21st century. We would want them to discover Kanopy. So we look at it as not just a way that students, professors, and on the public library side, any patron can give themselves an education in the art form, but also that we can support really any area of study or curriculum that's happening on campus. We work with over 1,000 content suppliers, many of you whom you know by name and have used for years in curriculum and library building, but it really runs the breadth and gamut of what's being taught on campus, as well as what would appeal to students sitting in their living rooms as well. We have a number of different models, and we've really leaned into doing our best to provide control and choice to our customers, and that comes from a mixed model approach. So we've got this pyramid that sort of lays it all out. Effectively, we look at PDA, or patron-driven acquisition, as the base layer. So within this model, it's effectively usage-driven. So our customers have a fairly open and robust catalog that they express on campus, and then professors can discover and students can discover what they might be, what might not be directly required in curriculum, but is really useful for research projects, for continuing education, for sort of add-on value or shoulder content to what they might be studying in school. Then we have a couple of different versions of PDA, an open product, a capped budget product, so you can keep it really clean from a budget management perspective. We have a smart product that's been really effective, where we work with you and our collection workflow consultants to curate the right PDA package for your program. So it's pretty flexible, and that's really sort of the base layer flagship for us. Many of our customers also then use firm ordering, which is really driven by a professor's curricular need. So you can base that on individual titles that you're hearing are needed in classes, or you can also use firm order to build out areas of focus or study that are critical for your program. So it might be a DE&I program, and you potentially have some additional funding for it, or you just have the mandate that you really want to support this on campus. Environmental issues, social justice, media, race, class, and gender studies. All of these are areas where you could lock in a package of titles through firm order and have those available throughout the year. Then we have our entire 30,000 title catalog that can be licensed, so that you and your professors and staff can curate access either across a number of suppliers, or you can focus in on certain key suppliers, such as the Criterion Collection, especially if you have film theory and film history courses that you're supporting. And then on top of that, about a little over a year ago, we launched a perpetual access license model, so that you could purchase and own long-term key titles from some of the most meaningful academic leaning suppliers, like First Run Features and Film Movement. That list is growing every month. I believe about 16,000 of our 30,000 titles are available under this access model. And then we've seen that it's been really popular with some of our customers that look at dependable collection building as something they want to lean into. And that's something that digital platforms have not done particularly well in the past, especially major commercial digital platforms. They are not there to manage a collection long term. They're there to jump in and jump out, and things change all the time. So we added this ownership model so that you could build a sustainable collection that you could control year over year, especially if it's on a core area of study or a key title that's continually requested by professors. There's a number of other benefits beyond the content and the models that are really helpful for our customers and our end users. The user experience, I love it. I'm a little bit biased, but I feel like we have a best-in-class user experience that the platform provides. There's sharing and embedding tools, so you can embed videos in course management systems. We have a great transcript navigation tool, so you can use the transcripts that are available across our content to navigate to specific parts of the film. Super valuable when using them in coursework. Custom playlists are great. Our professors use it all the time to basically pull clips from multiple videos that have been licensed and then build out a playlist that they can walk through in a classroom setting. And then we have many citation options. So you can cite videos with APA, MLA, Chicago, and Harvard styles. We talk a lot about from the classroom to the living room at Kanopy. And from a product perspective, it's incredibly valuable to be able to authenticate all of these different platforms. So our students are not stuck on their laptops. You know, a lot of people are smart TV first, tablet first, even smartphone first, and they could be watching their course assigned film on their iPhone, for example. So we have support for these 5, and we're always looking to add more as well to make the platform more accessible to meet these students and professors where they are in their preferred method of consumption. So I wanted to walk you through this survey that we did just coming up on a year ago now that really dug into how libraries are utilizing streaming video in the classroom. So this was pulled from more than 800 of our customers to participate. And these were academic libraries of all sizes with all focuses. And that's from community colleges to graduate schools, everything in between. And what we wanted to dig into was how video assets are being used on campus and how our customers expect them to be used in the years going forward. So you'll see on the left, we asked how folks expect the percentage of the materials budget allocated to streaming video to change over the next 3 years. And you'll see the vast majority expected some sort of an increase. What is that? 55%, we're looking at a significant increase, and then another 16.5%, we're expecting no change. So I think the underlying fact is, as we've moved through this COVID experience, whatever you want to call it, that these last couple of years have been, it's been clear that ongoing dependable accessibility to content without the need of a physical asset is just super critical. And it's something that we're going to need to support even as the pandemic subsides in the coming years. Now, on the DVD side, so looking at physical assets, we asked, how do you expect the percentage of your materials budget allocated to DVDs to change over the next 3 years? And you can see that these libraries expected it to significantly decrease, right? So 25, 55, 75%, we're looking at least a slight decrease. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't need video content in their classroom. It just means that the writing is on the wall, that the move to digital is effectively complete at this point. These were just some quotes I wanted to share from some of our partners to sort of add some more detail and specificity to their specific situation. Streaming video is just more popular. So even when we have students coming back into the classroom, students are expecting that interactivity. They're expecting that level of audiovisual engagement, and looking at that as really part of the value of their classroom experience. Professors are using streaming video more, but the demand for DVDs has declined. You know, I talked to some of our partners, and the fact of the matter is, if you have a DVD collection, it's super valuable when it comes to, you know, maintaining a collection over time. But you know, DVDs degrade; they can be warped. Students don't have DVD drives in their computers anymore. If you ask a student to, you know, borrow a DVD player from the library, that they'd probably look at you like you're crazy. It's just not what that age demographic is doing anymore, right? They want it to be streaming, they want it to be easy, and professors are really embracing this and using these flipped classroom models. So watch the film outside of class, let's discuss it in class. So they're really maximizing their time together. And that last quote, didn't understand how heavily teaching relies on video and film, right? And professors are just not going to go back to the old way of doing things. So how can lending models support doing this in a sustainable way? We did poll all of our partners on what their preferred model was, and this really informed us that we're going to keep doubling down on this mixed model approach. You'll see that perpetual access was the #1 answer we received, and we did launch that in late 2020. It's been very effective for people. People are excited. They can use the data that we provide them on the back end to see usage trends for individual titles over a period of years, and that can directionally help them stretch their budget and understand how they can get more value from each dollar by locking in that title. Subscription was the #2 offering. I don't know if folks saw the press release that we put out of LibLearnX, but we are offering a subscription option to our academic customers this year. It's going to be robust. It's going to be very curriculum focused, something you can look towards later in the year being able to adopt on Kanopy. And then the firm upfront order and PDA were the next 2 options. And those have really been the cornerstone of what we do at Kanopy. What's great about our platform and how it fits the needs of a number of programs is it can be very scalable. Larger institutions can offer a very large catalog. Smaller institutions can pick and choose titles, and then we can work with you and provide the data that's helpful about engagement to make sure that the money is being spent in the right direction. So usage trends. So now we just know, all right, video's here to stay. It's streaming. That's how people want to engage with it. That's how you get students' attention and focus. So how is this content being used? What's the regard for students' demand for streaming video? We know they want it to increase, but how is it being used on campus? So when we polled on the professor side, about 70% of the usage was either course assignments or research. So I think the ROI on 3/4 or 70% of the catalog spend is incredibly high. On the research side, we know that we have some films, say a documentary shot in the Sudan dealing with a tribe that doesn't exist anymore. That's a film that may not be available anywhere else. We have a lot of titles that are very difficult to find that we've curated over a number of years that we make available. And these are critical for research. Professional development, I think, is incredibly valuable when it comes to that sort of whole student and whole person approach that's becoming more and more critical as one of the services and values that academic institutions can provide. And then personal enrichment, obviously, that comes into play, especially with the vast array of Academy Award-winning films and critical, really acknowledged masterpieces that we have. And having a catalog put together that's not America-centric. We have films from all over the world in a host of languages, and that can be very enriching, especially for students that are sort of just stepping out into the world for the first time out of their hometown and into their college experience. So how are students using the streaming video? Again, it aligned very closely where you see about 64% of that usage was for course assignments or research. So again, the ROI is going to where we want it to go in a real meaningful way. There was that added uptick in personal enrichment. But again, for a lot of institutions that we've been talking to, that's becoming a core value, right? And a budget dependent, of course. We can't be everything for everyone, but more and more often we're looking at the impact of a library on the whole person as being something that goes well beyond the classroom. So we're doing this again, and I'm really excited to share this today, and hopefully folks here will take part. So that was our study for 2020 into 2021. It is available, it has been published, and we can share the whole study with folks If you want feedback, you have our contact information in the next slide. But we're doing this again right now. So we have our 2022 study open. We're addressing the same types of issues, and we want to hear an update now that we're through 2 years of the pandemic, and see where we can focus our efforts to provide the most value so that we can really leverage digital content in your collections. So you'll see a link here. It's go.canopy.com/survey-ACRL. And I believe there's even a giveaway in there as well that you'd be entered into by filling out the survey. So it only takes about 10 minutes of your time. We love feedback. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that we're focused from a product and a content perspective in the direction that's going to bring you the most value. So if you're a Kanopy customer, you probably know a lot of this already. If you're not, hopefully this is a way that you could start engaging with us, and we can help bring more film and video on campus, because we're passionate about the fact that film can change people's lives, and we want to be a part of those efforts. So with that, I'm going to pass it over. Thanks so much for spending some time with me and looking at Kanopy today.
Great. Thanks so much, Jason, Kathleen, and Jeff. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes to answer some questions. So looks like we already have a bunch in there, but to anyone out there who still has a question, we encourage you to submit them through the Q&A. Okay, so we'll just jump right in. We have a question here from Kimberly, who says, video is so important, but licensing films every year has been cost prohibitive and unsustainable for libraries. With the death of physical media, I worry about the loss of access to knowledge and art. So Jason, maybe you could talk about what Kanopy is doing, or how its model works to make media more sustainable.
Yeah, thanks for that question. We spend a lot of time thinking about this. And so I'd say, the two areas that we're really focused on are number one, devising models, right, that can be meaningfully integrated into what we do that change the cost equation. And then number two, educating our content suppliers, as well as educating our customers. So on the model side, I think I would say that, launching things like perpetual access, moving towards launching a subscription, these are directly focused on programs that have more modest budgets, right, that need something controllable that can scale over time. And so that's a way that we're trying to do it, right, to build in sustainability on as much of our library as we possibly can. On the educational side, I talk on webinars all the time, and we have this conversation with our customers at all of our town halls. We do quarterly town halls. Actually, I have one coming up at the end of March, if anyone wants to join that as well. And then we talk about this with suppliers. And the challenge is, universities dealing with all of these thousands of requests, right, are looking at the value of an individual film, and they have very little control over, if that film is needed for a course, is it going to be watched one time? Is it going to be watched 1,000 times over the next year? And it's really hard to predict that. So the, ROI of an individual title license can vary massively, right? Now, that being said, from the content distributor's perspective, the dollar for an institutional level 1 year or 3 year license of a film, it's like the amount of access that gives and the amount of plays that can lead to, there's so much inherent value in that compared to what they see from an individual rental or an individual transaction, right? They might say like, well, we can get $12, right, from one person buying this movie in the commercial world, and now I put it here, and institutions could have 5,000 students watch it, and we end up with, whatever, a penny a view or something like that. So a lot of it is about education, right? So I spend a lot of time helping institutions understand how licensing works, what the economics of that world is, because we need it also to be a sustainable business for independent filmmakers. It's not just what's come in the past, it's what's going to be made in the future. And documentary filmmakers who are so critical to academic institutions and areas of study are, couch surfing and, working 3 jobs in order to have their opportunity to make another documentary. And documentarians are the new journalists. Like, their work is absolutely critical. So for every dollar we reduce the spend in this critical market for them, it makes it less sustainable. We get a lower quality documentary product for years to come. I know you're probably feeling very far removed from that reality, right? But for the filmmakers and for the distributors, that is their reality. Now, on the distributor side, this is how we negotiate and this is how we engage with them, is to educate them on the realities of the needs of institutions and also the financial picture, right? Because their world is general consumer, but we're sort of fighting the fight with you, because every time we lose that battle, those films go exclusively to Netflix or exclusively to Hulu or somewhere else that puts up the wall so they're not accessible at all at the academic level. So we have to pick our battles and figure out how we can not just get better and better rates from our suppliers, but also get them bought into the models that are sustainable for libraries so that they're comfortable and they keep taking a stand for academic consumption of the content. So we need the distributors to partner with us. And it's, in essence, a fight against the major technology companies that can throw the kind of money around that academic institutions and Kanopy and everyone that works in this space can't match. So it is a push and a pull, and there's no simple answer other than to say we kind of tackle it from multiple angles, and hopefully we can keep creating services that are close enough a fit to everyone that we can fulfill the needs. But I have no illusions that it's ever going to be perfect, because video licensing is messy and it has been forever.
Definitely, yeah. It's tough. We have another question about Kanopy, who asks, does Kanopy provide films with audio description for the blind or film transcripts that are screen reader accessible?
We do, not across the board. Audio descriptions are something that we want to move towards more coverage. The partners that we work with almost never have these and almost never create them. So often how we're addressing it is we're looking to address it on a case-by-case basis and bring it where it's needed. And that allows us to sort of scale it over time. The second question, second half of the question, I think I missed, but I may need to come back to you with an answer. So with some of my product folks.
Great. Okay. Yeah, let's see. We have actually had a question for Kathleen. You mentioned that faculty is using more graphic novels in the classroom, and I was just wondering, is this implementation of quote unquote alternate formats sort of a widespread trend that librarians are responding to, or is this sort of embrace of other formats something that libraries are trying to sort of push faculty to get on board with?
Yeah, I'd say we're definitely meeting demands that we are hearing from our faculty, that they are asking for these things. And we are trying to figure out the best way to do it. We have like a comic book graphic novel collection as well. But in the pandemic, there was a desire to have online access to that material. So that was another reason why we sought out OverDrive. But it's definitely, I would not say it's all classes are doing it, or even the majority of classes, but a number of classes have adopted graphic novels and comic books as a teaching tool. And so we're responding to that.
Great. Yeah, let's see, we have another question that asks, what are your thoughts on the interest or willingness to purchase AI/machine read audio titles? There may be a big opportunity to create reasonably priced audio titles for academic or scholarly titles that are not feasible to create as a traditional human narrated title. But there's sort of a pushback against non-human narration that is stalling making these available. So I don't know if maybe you all want to comment on that.
Yeah. So my immediate reaction is, oh, that's a terrible idea. But that's mainly based on my experience watching TikTok videos with AI voice and that's just an awful experience. So like we need to set that aside. That is not what all AI voices sound like. So I should set that aside. And I should also remember, like literally I've had students say, I use the text to speech because I want an audio version. And if they're willing to put up with text to speech, then I bet that a better AI voice than you can get on TikTok would actually be desirable. And I think it's a great idea. Certainly, minimally, it would be great to experiment with that as a possibility. I know I've talked to our own University of Michigan Press has published an audiobook, and I was talking to the director of the press at one point, and he said, it's just very expensive to do. They would like to do more of it, but it's very expensive to do. So the idea of a human-like AI voice would be less expensive, and it would be interesting to see what the uptake is like. And is it just I'm old and I don't want to listen to an AI voice, and maybe younger kids just don't care, and the art, so our students would be more than happy with it. I would love to see some publishers experiment with that and see what the uptake is like.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, it looks like we're at 3 p.m. So I think we're out of time here. I will note that Jeff and Stephen did answer a bunch of type responses, and there is one question about the recording, and just want to let folks know that we did record today's session, and everyone who registered will receive a link to the archive version. So with that, just want to say thanks so much to Kathleen, Jeff, and Jason for taking the time to present today. Thanks to our attendees for their questions and comments. Also, if you have a few minutes after the presentation to fill out a brief survey, we'd really appreciate it. Your responses help improve our presentations. So thanks again to all of you out there for joining us. We hope you learned something new from the session, and we hope to see you again in the near future on another webinar.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.